Right, so before we move to the next transition, I want to show you how we can achieve the same behavior and not to do inline styling, to use classes. So first, I'm going to delete all of this. I'm going to delete this one because we are not going to use it. And I'm going to be adding just a simple div with a class. I'm going to delete all of this as well. And for now, I'm going to delete the state. So now what we can do, since we have the state available, what we can do, we can ask a class name, and the class name, we're going to be adding our custom class, but we're going to be using the state as well. So first, I'm going to give a name to this to my component, my div. I'm going to give a class, and I'm going to call square. Makes sense? Square. Yeah, square. Why not? And then of course I'm going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to say square, but now what I will need to do, I will need to add the state of whatever state we get right here. So I'm going to be using template strings, and I'm going to be adding the state. So now whenever we the transition is going to be entering this or exiting this, we get the class available inside class name. So I'm going to do the same thing right here. Just going to copy all of this. I'm going to paste it right here so we can see inside the div which classes we are getting. So okay, so we have square and square entered. This is the first state. I'm going to click, and it's going to say square exiting and square exit. And if I click again, we get, entering and then entered. So we are getting the classes right here. And inside the class name, of course, we get the class. Let me inspect just to make sure. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to go right here, and we have square entered. And if I click it, square exiting and exited, and then entering and entered. Good. So we are getting the classes. So the only thing that we need to do right now is to add the CSS for this. Okay. So I'm going to go to app CSS, and I have the 3 different transitions. And this one is going to be the basic. So I'm going to be adding the classes right now. Real simple. The first one is going to be called square. And square, if you remember, we have a background of red. What else? We have the height of 100 pixels. What else? We have the opacity, since this is the main state of the div, is going to be 1. Okay. And then, of course, we need to add the transition. And the transition is going to be all, then 2 seconds, of course, and then ease. This is just CSS, nothing, it's not React or JavaScript. Good, so now we have the main state of this. The next state is going to be the entering, then the entered, and then the exiting, and then the exit. Good. So I'm going to say square, just like before, and I'm going to be adding a class of square entering. So it's going to be square and then entering. And this class is going to be doing the animation of when the div is going to be entering. So we're going to be doing opacity, just like that. And it's going to be equal to 1. And I'm going to be adding one more thing. I'm going to add a transform. And it's going to be translate and translate X. And we're going to give it a 0%. Good. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but with the square entered. It's going to say square dot and square and then entered. And I'm going to be changing the background to blue so we can see that transition. So first, the element is not visible. It's going to have, it's visible. It's right here. We can see it right here with the opacity of 1. And after the element enters and we get the state, it's going to be changing the color from red to blue. Good. So now we need to do the exit state. So it's going to be square, then square, and it's going to be exiting. And I'm going to be changing the background to green. And of course, I need to do the exited, which is going to be the translate and the opacity. And of course, it's going to be the same idea. So square and then square, and it's going to be exit. Just like that. Open and close. We get opacity, and the opacity is going to be 0. And we're going to be removing the element from the screen. It's going to be sliding to the left. So we're going to be using transform and the same translate X, but this time it's going to be minus 100%. So it's going to be hiding the whole div. Okay, so in theory, this should be working. Good. So we're going to be reloading the application. Okay, we get square and square entered, and enter is going to be opacity of 1 and the color blue. If I click it, it's going to be changing to green and it's going to remove the div from the screen. And exiting, and when we get exit, it's going to be removing. So it's kind of working. If I click on show or hide again, it's going to be doing and then change the color when we get to enter. So, it's working. Good. Let's test it one more time. And okay, it works. So, it's real simple. Once you get the idea of how this works, what this state means, what we can do with the state, it's really simple. So of course we get a lot of more options with this. What we can do, we can set the timeout for the enter and the exit in separate mode. Let me just delete this. And I'm going to be adding an object. And this object is going to be the enter, which is going to be 200, just like that. And I'm going to add the exit. And this one is going to be shorter. It's going to be 50. So whenever with the state it's enter or entering, it's going to be using the timeout of 2 seconds. And if we're doing exiting, it's going to use half a second. So I'm going to reload the application, going to show, and it's a little bit faster. And if I do it again, same thing. So we can do this. We have a lot of options available. You can check the documentation, of course. We have more, of course. I can say enter is going to be equal to, and I'm going to set it to false so we can see the difference. I'm going to say exit, and it's going to be equal to false as well. So I'm going to be reloading the application. Okay, so we have entered, and if I click show or hide, it's just going to do it. It's not going to go through the exiting option. It's going to just do the entered. Let me change this. Let me reload and click hide. And if you notice, it's just doing the exiting. It's not going through the exiting. It's just going directly to the exited. Gonna click again, and we get entered right here. So it's only using the square entered, the state of entered or exiting or exit. It's not going through exiting or entering. So this is the main purpose of this. And if I do true, of course, it's going to be using all the states, the entering and the exiting. Exiting, and then it's going to go, and of course, we do the same thing, entering and entered. So this is the main purpose of the enter and the exit. Of course, we can do a little bit more. I'm going to be adding on, enter, and it's going to be equal, and it's going to be equal to a function. This function takes a node, which is going to be the arguments for this, and then we can do whatever we want. I can say console log, and then, I don't know, enter. Let me bring the console. I'm going to go right here at the bottom. And if I click it, of course, nothing is going to happen. But if I click it again, we should be getting a console log of enter. And we get enter. So whenever the element, the div, it's entering, it's going to be executing whatever code you have right here. And of course, we have the opposite of this, which is going to be on exit. It's going to be on exit. And same idea. This one has a node, and it's going to be equal to something. And I made a mistake right here. Just let me delete it. Oh, no, there's no mistake. Well, yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to just copy the console log, and it's going to be exit, something like that. And if I save it, I click show, it's going to be hiding, so we get the exit. And if, of course, we click again, we have the enter. So this one is kind of useful for us. You're going to see it later. Okay, so everything's good. Let's go to the next one, the CSS transitions. And now, since you know how this works, the main logic of doing all of this, these ones are going to be real simple. Let's go to the next one.